Hello gamers from around the world, this is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the World of Gaming. And boy, this is going to be a packed show, Dutch. We have so many topics to talk about today, so I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. A big welcome to everyone in the chat. Hope you guys are doing well. It's been a crazy week for gaming news. A lot of stuff happened, and I can't wait to talk about it. But first, Dutch, how have you been, man?
Yes, I've been good. It's been nice to have some warm weather again recently. A couple of little showers in there, here and there, but yeah, it's been nice. Apart from the house has been absolutely boiling at all times. So when you've got a
Is it
room
that
that's full of
warm?
technology, yeah,
Oh,
it's been like the house has been at least 25 degrees at all, like
okay.
every day, and then outside the house has been like 18 to 20 every day. So yeah, it's starting to get warm again, which is nice. But what isn't nice is trying to game in a room that is permanently boiling hot. So yeah, I've had a chance to play a couple of little things, a little bit more Ayuden Chronicles and stuff, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
But otherwise, just work. And I really need to get on top of a lot of things because Hellblade's coming out next week, and I'm going to be smashing that out. So yes.
absolutely.
How about you, Boxy? How are you
Doing good, doing good. Been busy with work, been busy with gaming. We had a big kid's birthday party this week. My son turned 8 years old, so yeah, I'm doing good, man. And I'm excited to be here today, along with you, of course, and our awesome community. So again, a big welcome to you guys. And as always, you can vote in the chat what gameplay we're gonna watch today. We have multiple choices in there. Of course, Starfield is there. Ayuden Chronicles, Gears Hive Busters, and No Rest for the Wicked. So put in your votes, and I see Ayuden Chronicles is leading so far. But we're gonna keep the poll up for just a little bit. But Dutch, of course.
Yes.
We wanted to start our podcast as always with the most important things, and that is the games we play, of course. So, guys in the chat, let us know what you have been playing, and of course, Dutch, what kept you busy in gaming?
Yeah, just RPGs again. I feel like that's just my life. It's either JRPGs or RPGs, and that's pretty much how my life ends up. So I've been playing Ayuden Chronicles 100 Heroes again. But I've also been playing. I went for and downloaded an older but remade version of Pokemon Diamond on the Switch, and I've been playing that from scratch as well. So I've been doing that. On top of that, as always, every Sunday get involved with Ace's community night. So this week we played a bit more Halo.
Sweet.
And played some Forza Horizon 5. So yeah, been playing those as well with the community, and that was awesome. And we had some custom games on Halo. So we had things like super fast acceleration, walking and running around like absolute morons trying to hit each other with hammers, or slowly trying to run around with rocket launchers and with low gravity, and just daft stuff you do with the community. So it was fun. And I'll put that gameplay on a little bit later on my channel as well, so people can see some idiocy.
Sweet. Sweet.
What about you?
So, yeah, what about me? I've been mostly playing Ayuden Chronicles, 100 Heroes. I am totally addicted. I love the game. It's so well done. And it's it reminds me of the Suikoden days. We had those games, the early Final Fantasies, or of course, like games like The Secret of Western-inspired RPGs and stuff like that. And it's so good. I know these turn-based JRPGs are really not everyone's cup of tea, and that's totally fine. But if you ever feel like checking one out, I feel this is a really good one to start because it's really easy to get into. It feels almost too easy in the first couple of hours, but there are certain difficulty spikes coming where it gets a little bit more challenging, but never overwhelmingly difficult. But it's just super fun to play around with all these different characters, and I've seen a lot of people post about it. 100 heroes, that's so overwhelming, and but it really isn't.
It isn't, because you don't have to collect all of the 100 heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's entirely by choice.
It's entirely by choice, and the game rewards you to collect all characters, but you don't have to check them out. And it's not like you open up the menu and you have 100 characters available. You kind of have to search them, and you increase your possibilities how to arrange your party, and it's really, really good. So yeah, I absolutely love it. The music is great. Lots of diversity in the environments as well, and the story is actually really good. I thought it had a slow start,
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Where I was like, I don't know about the story. Where will this go? But it almost feels like 10 hours in or so. You realize, oh, I just finished basically the tutorial area.
Yeah.
Well, it isn't. It's included, but it kind of feels that way because there's a certain break in the story, and after that, it is really, really good. So yeah, man, Ayuden Chronicles, I've been absolutely loving that. Then of course I checked out the new patches first for Fallout 4. That dropped earlier this week. Great patch. It now gives you a lot of different options. Before they released the 60 FPS patch, but it was kind of broken on the Series X, where you toggled them between quality and performance, and didn't really work. And now you have like multiple options you can choose between 30, 40, or 60 FPS, and in each of those modes you can then tell the game what to prioritize, quality or performance. And Fallout is really, really good now. It was good before, don't get me wrong, but in terms of like how it performs on the consoles. And Starfield actually got a very similar patch, so I jumped back in to Starfield. You get also the option to have 30, 40, 60 FPS, even uncapped frame rates, and then you can choose quality or quality or performance preferences. So I actually wanted to use that opportunity to talk to you about that. I don't know if you had the chance to check the patch out in Starfield, but I feel like that's the kind of options I want on every console game. Like really have the option 30, 40, 60 FPS. And if I choose 60, what do I want the game to favor? Keep the quality in visuals and maybe drop the frame rates a little bit, or keep the stable 60 FPS and drop the resolution. And then you have all these options, and you can really play the game just as you want. If you want all the bells and whistles, of course, reduce the frames, crank up the quality, and you're good.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I absolutely love that. Did you have the chance to check it out?
Yeah, I have not, because I'm waiting. I'm literally waiting until Shattered Space comes out. There's just so many things there's so many things that I need to catch up on right now. I was telling you guys in the DM, I still haven't played Final Fantasy 16 Rising Tides. I still need to finish Rebirth. I've got Ayuden Chronicles, so I've got 3 JRPGs on the belt. Hellblade comes out next week. And I've got numerous kind of little indie games as well on in the background, so I'm catching up on them first. I've already beat and played Starfield, so like as much as this patch might be nice to kind of try out and things, I'm not going to delete something now to reinstall it until that DLC comes out, because I just need to get other things
You're not
done.
even curious how it looks and runs? Bro. No, it's really, really good. And actually, to be honest, having played Fallout 4 over the past couple of weeks again, and now jumping back into Starfield, it just shows me how much of an improvement Starfield is over Fallout. Don't get me wrong, Fallout 4 is a great game, but it's not just the visuals, of course. Yeah, you have better engine now, better lighting, better textures, but just in terms of how the game feels, how it handles, how the gunplay feels, and everything. Starfield is just actually a really great improvement upon the already great Bethesda formula, and I still enjoy Starfield. I never really stopped playing Starfield. I don't play it every day or so, but I have it permanently installed on my ROG Ally. I played it there a lot, because at least I was able to play it at 60 on the Ally, you know, and now it's back on console with this patch. And what do you think about these options, man? I'm leaning towards actually playing the game now at 40 FPS, because I feel like 40 FPS is such an underrated way of displaying games on console.
I think that's the best mode for those who want the fidelity and want a little bit more smoothness, but they don't really care about 60. Because 60 usually comes with a lot of hindrances on console. It usually kind of downgrades the image quality far too much.
Absolutely.
And that's what a lot of people want to avoid. So I think if most of them can find kind of a middle ground option, like a 40 frames mode, that kind of just buffers but uses VRR, etc., to give a little bit extra smoothness and make it feel a bit better, as well as keeping the fidelity where it should be, then do that. That would ultimately be the mode I'd be trying out anyway. I wouldn't go for the 60. I wouldn't go for the 30. I'd be sticking to the 40 mode.
Don't get me wrong, the 60 feel definitely better than the 40. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, of course.
But like you said, oftentimes 60 FPS on consoles are just too much of a compromise, and the boost from 30 to 40 FPS is really significant. It feels so much smoother to play a game at 40 than to play on 30, and it still gives the game an increased frame time for rendering and everything. So I feel like a lot more games on consoles should definitely have that 40 FPS option.
Yeah, 100%.
Now with Starfield in particular, I've been jumping back and forth in between 40 and 60, and obviously you can tell the difference, and it feels definitely better. And even at 60, the quality drop you get isn't that much. I know there's the Digital Foundry video out there that tells you things, but honestly, going back and forth, there's no big difference. You can tell that the resolution drop a little bit, but it still looks pretty sharp, and textures still look good and everything. So
I think the problem with and this is no offense to Digital Foundry, because they're doing what they're doing and it's content, etc. But I think the problem with the age of Digital Foundry, should we say, is that they hyperanalyze things that normal people would not look for. Like you don't realistically zoom in 300% into an image when you're playing it on anything. You don't. If you notice that, literally the only way to notice image quality is, and the easiest way to notice image quality differences is playing a Switch. If you play a Switch on handheld versus you playing it on the TV, that is a difference in the visual quality. And the same can be said if you're trying to play a 1080p game on a 4K TV. You will notice the difference because it's just a blown-up version of 1080. So you will notice that difference. But if you've got a 4K image, or one that's been super sampled up to 4K, and it's had all these kind of techniques and rendering things on a modern game, the only real way to see the difference is by zooming in 400%. Like, you're not really going to see it. So I think that the problem with the modern age is that people complain over things that they actually wouldn't have bothered complaining about in the past.
I do agree. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really do enjoy the Digital Foundry videos. But at the very end of the day, sometimes the nitpicking that comes after the Digital Foundry analysis, like you said, nobody can tell that.
Yeah.
I feel like in Starfield
you onto the hair from like 300 feet. Like,
yeah,
I didn't notice that. It's in motion.
So don't get me wrong. You can definitely notice in Starfield, if you turn on the 60 FPS mode, you can tell the resolution drop and so on. But it's really not like in a game like Avatar or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where you turned on the 60 and it just got a blurry mess that was basically unplayable and made your eyes hurt. That's definitely not it. So yeah, I'm torn in between the 40 and the 60, and I really do love the update. Besides that, they have added city maps. Finally. And they are really well done. They don't just look gorgeous, but it's really helpful in finding like the next vendor or the next doctor and so on. So yeah, man, Starfield is better than ever before. What do you think about this entire controversy I've seen online about, cool, but should have been there day one?
If it wasn't ready there day one and they sent it out to die on a mode that was absolutely shit, then you would have also been crying about it day one because the mode would have been shit and it wouldn't work properly. So I'd much rather they put out a game with a version of the game that works and it was fine. Let's face it, 30 frames per second mode, the actual quality mode that came out at launch was fine and it worked enough to get a very good rating and people enjoyed the game. So I'd rather they do that and then add a 60 frames mode when it's good and ready than ship it out at launch and it's broken when they have a version of the game at 30 that runs perfectly fine. Like, that makes no sense. Like, if you've got a game that's ready, but the only mode that isn't is a performance mode, it's a free update anyway. Like, if people want to play it at 60 later down the line, then fine. Just have some patience. But don't buy it until it's got 60 frames mode. Like, people don't have that though. They have FOMO for when games come out, so they're just like, I need to get it. I don't care if it's got 30.
And that's fine. Yeah. I'm a guy who has a lot of FOMO. But
same.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
But I'll not complain about it. Like, if I have FOMO for a game, I go in knowing full well, okay, well, at launch it doesn't have the 60 frames mode. It doesn't have this. It'll get added over time. But I'm going in full well knowing this is the package that I'm getting right now. But people get things with FOMO, knowing full well it doesn't have a 60 frames mode, complain that it doesn't have the 60 frames mode.
Yeah, but generally I feel like, unfortunately, we have gotten used to that. Basically day one buyers are punished by getting unfinished games, broken games, or games with missing features. Like in this case, where you had the game only available at 30, and now 8-9 months later, you're finally able to play the game the way it was supposed to be played. You know, it's not just a Starfield thing. I think a lot of this. What do you call it?
Ultimately,
sentiment or negativity we see lately, sometimes in gaming, is because a lot of people got burned over the last 2 years. So many games came out broken, unfinished, or important stuff getting patched in later when everyone has finished the game already, you know? And of course, that's why hang on, let me finish my thought.
Go on then.
And for me, I loved Starfield when it came out. It was still a great game. It was absolutely playable at 30, don't get me wrong. But of course, you wonder why wasn't it possible after all these years of development to have the 60 FPS available on console at launch? Yeah, It's not like they patched in now FSR 3, which wasn't available at launch. It's still FSR 2 on console, and things like that make you wonder, okay, why not? But at the end, I'm happy that the game got that update, and it is phenomenal and runs really, really good now on consoles, and it will definitely help the game once Shattered Space comes out. So yeah, I'm also very much looking forward to that, by the way.
Yeah, and in terms of, I think, and for me, I've just got used to the fact that these consoles will not do what they said they were going to do originally. So I don't expect any of the games to release with additional modes at launch. I don't expect them to release. And that's just, it's maybe having a little bit of a cynical outlook about it, but I've already got used to the fact that these consoles aren't going to do what we originally were told they were going to do. So I'm not even going to continue to kick up a fuss about it now because it's far too late in the day. We've already moaned about it 50 times before that these consoles aren't doing what they promised us.
Yeah,
there's nothing else that can be done now.
That's true.
These games are going to come out potentially with a mode at launch that isn't great, like we've seen with Rebirth and with Avatar.
Yeah.
And then those modes get patched and then they become okay. Or they don't launch with the mode, but then they bring the mode out later on and it's fine. So you've either got the games releasing with these modes and they're shit, or they don't release with the modes and they are good when they do release. So you've got two. You've got the better the devil you know situation at the moment.
Yeah.
You can have it at launch, but they're probably shit. Or let's wait and see. And then they release it, and then it's fine. But yeah, that's ultimately my thing. I think I've just got used to the fact that these things aren't doing what they originally said, and ultimately, if I want to play a game at 60 at launch, then it's going to be on PC.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate for the people that are really into their frames, etc. I know you've been promised, as we all have, these consoles should have been doing 60 frames. That's what they said originally, but ultimately they don't, and we have to wait for them or get shitty modes. So if you do really want a 60 frames mode at launch, you're better off just playing it at PC. You are, definitely. Ultimately. We're not really going to see, I don't think we're going to see anything that's more stable 60 at launch until next gen. And even then.
Maybe.
And even then.
Maybe.
And even then.
We shall see.
Yeah.
We shall
we'll see about
that. Let's see what the community has been playing, man.
Yes.
Dustin Lambert in the chat got now all the achievements for Vampire Survivors and hit level is 76 in Diablo 4. Oh yeah, man. The season 4 started, and with that, the big update for Diablo 4 came out the other day. I have to jump back into Diablo 2. Definitely want to check the new update out. It sounds absolutely fantastic. Flush Jackson has started Hellblade last night with intense lights off and a proper OLED and headphones. Yeah, that's the way how to experience the game.
Way to do it.
That's the way to
dark.
Go. In the dark with headphones on. That's what I will be doing next Tuesday, man. That's what I will be doing next Tuesday. So, what else has the community been playing, man? We talk too much about Starfield. Yeah. Do you have
a couple of ones? Yeah, don't worry. Yes.
Go.
So Paul AFC's been playing Suicide Squad solo, and he's been playing Halo Reach with his son. And believe it or not, it's the first time he's played Halo Reach, because he ignored it because it wasn't a Chief-centric game, but he's absolutely loving it. I mean, Paul, Halo Reach is one of the goats of Halo. So even without Chief, it's unbelievable. It's such a great game.
Yeah.
Another one, different one. Homer J, he's been playing Lawnmower Simulator and Diablo and Tekken 8. Now, Lawnmower Simulator or Farming Simulator we saw at Gamescom, and that is unbelievably popular.
Yeah. It was one of the biggest booths there. There was like a line with, 8 hours of wait time. And man, if I want to play the lawnmower, I just start listening to my wife and actually mow the lawn.
Mow the lawn, yeah.
God.
Next, Phantosir, been playing The Last of Us Part 1, Fallout 4, and Starfield. Fallout 4 is still way better than Starfield in his opinion. Oh yeah, and Diablo 4 too.
Good stuff.
What else we got down here?
We have
had another one as
Siki,
well.
who played,
Yes.
stopped playing Dying Light 2 because of headaches and is now playing RimWorld.
Nice. RimWorld. God, that's an oldie.
Yeah. H. Julia has been playing Kingdom Come Deliverance and Elden Ring. Oh, nice. Getting ready for the sequel and the DLC. Sounds good. Luke is in the chat. Shout out to you. He has been playing Hades 2, Stellar Blade, and a bit of Halo Infinite. Sweet.
Nice.
Then we have Gen X Gamer 79 who plays Tekken 8 and Armored Core 6 on PC. I have yet to play Armored Core 6, man. I really want to play it, but I don't know where to squeeze it in. Richard Freudel is playing Animal Well. Ooh, nice. Good stuff there. You have anyone left? I think so far we covered it.
Pretty much almost caught up. I've got one more that's kind of popped in here, and Abdel has said, by the way, love Age of Empires 4 on Xbox, almost finished the last campaign. Nice.
Shout out to that guy. Who was that? Abdel. Shout out to Abdel, man.
Abdel,
H4.
yes.
Mwah. Chef's kiss. Love it. We can end it. Actually, we should end the podcast now. Yeah? Can't get any better than that.
And just play H4.
And just play H4.
Oh dear me! I have had the I've had a super chat in here as well by Face23BKNY, $20 super chat. Thank you very much. He says all PS5 exclusive games have a performance mode and good quality and high production values from day one. There's no excuse for Xbox not to do the same. Not all of them have released with good performance modes at launch, but there is an option, and ultimately that's what matters. People should be given the option. Whether or not they're shit is another thing, but some of them have been great, some of them have not been great. So yeah, but there is option, and that's what matters. That's all people want. But even if they did have that option, people will find a way to moan.
Yeah.
So human beings.
Yeah. Evil Mac is playing Jedi Survivor and Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Dutch. Let's actually get into some topics. Because we have so many. We have so many this week. Basically, breaking news. Like 2 hours before we started the podcast, Xbox and Activision announced that they have founded a new studio in Poland, Elsewhere Entertainment. Which includes ex-CD Projekt Red, Naughty Dog, Bungie, and Ubisoft developers. And they are working on a brand new franchise, AAA franchise. We have no idea what it's going to be. It just said AAA, new
franchise. Narrative franchise.
Yeah, narrative that will push the boundaries. So, what do you think?
Honestly,
it leaves like it leaves like a little.
It's a bad taste in my mouth. I think it's a bit of a piss take. They've literally just closed down 3 studios and they're founding a new one. Like, are you taking the? You've just literally got rid of specifically one that we mentioned out of all of them. Specifically one. You've just got rid of one that isn't profitable. You founded a new one which definitely isn't going to be profitable for God knows how long. What sense does that make? You've just got rid of entire studios to create a brand new studio.
I'm playing devil's advocate now. Maybe it's a region thing, you know? It's
but they're just giving up on Japan.
One is in Japan, the other one is in Poland. But I do totally agree. Yeah. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth as well. Like, literally a couple of days after you just shut down 4 studios or included one of them
the mobile one.
The mobile one, AlphaDog, into the organization and shut down the others. You announce, oh, we have this brand new studio making a AAA game, and you basically know that we are not gonna see this game for another 6 years, right? So it's as cool as it always is when there's a new studio and a new franchise, a new IP, and hopefully a good game comes out. It's kind of hard to get excited for something that is at least 6 years down the line. I mean, the last time they did that was basically with the Initiative, and look where we are 6 years later, and we haven't even seen the game. So yeah, it's based under Activision, though. Yeah.
Yes.
What's up with that smirk?
That's strange. Outside of Blizzard, Activision themselves haven't really been known as the best or biggest of storytellers. Not in terms of a narrative perspective, like an actual narrative game. It's great that they're getting Naughty Dog people and things in like that, and some big guys that have done narrative-driven games before. But I've heard this a lot from many of the studios they've created previously from Xbox, and we're yet to see any of these narrative-focused games see the light of day. So, at the minute, I've just got a bad taste. I'm hardly trying to get positive about opening a brand new studio after 4 have went under, regardless of what kind of game it is. And I think it's until they've proven themselves, the same as the Initiative, they're a nothing studio. And we've seen this with a lot of them. Like even the big guys that have, I've moved on and I'm creating my own studio, and the big industry veterans, and then nothing. And then they do nothing. It's like you can be a veteran for as long as you like, but if you're not pumping out games, or you're not creating something, and nothing actually sees the light of day.
I totally get that. It's what I always say when people get excited about Amy Hennig. You know, it was like, okay, the last game she released was 15 years ago or so. And yes, Uncharted was awesome, but yeah, show us that you can do that in a different environment than Naughty Dog, and you haven't released anything in more than a decade. I do get that. Although the studio itself sounds pretty awesome, I mean, Poland is an incredibly talented country when it comes to game development. Some of the best studios are based there. We have Warhorse Studios, and of course CD Projekt Red is there. Some of the best Ubisoft studios are located there. And they hired a lot of those ex CD Projekt Red developers and so on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what it will be. But that's the thing. Yeah, it's gonna be a long time before we actually see what they are working on, and of course the timing again. You know, there's really no need to announce this now when everyone is still mad about the closure, and it just automatically puts it like a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Almost.
I imagine it's an even worse taste. You've got to think about not just ours. Like to us, it doesn't come across well. Imagine that all of the developers have just been let go by like Tango specifically. Like that pretty much found out on the day, and even them, bless them, they're still working on releasing the physical version with limited games. With limited run games, they're still doing that, and they're still doing a final patch before the studio closes down. So even now, they're still working. And imagine seeing that news today that Microsoft and Activision are founding a brand new AAA studio. Like, you'd be like, "Are you taking the piss? Like, really? Why did we get closed down and you're starting a brand new studio that's single player driven and there's going to take at least 7-8 years to become anywhere near profitable?" Like, what?
Again, if they would have waited for a couple of months until the dust has settled, there would be a lot more excitement around this. Still
maybe
good.
Just after the showcase. Maybe it's after the showcase. Talk about it.
After the showcase, a lot of the dust will be settled because I have no doubt that this is going to be an awesome showcase this year. And I said this to you, I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or so on the podcast. I feel like this year's showcase is going to be like a AAA showcase. Because if you think about all these AAA games that they have in development for so many years now, may it be Fable, may it be Perfect Dark, and so on. There are so many that have been cooking for so many years, 6, 7 plus years. I feel like this year we're gonna see a lot of the bigger games for Xbox. Yeah, we know that Indiana Jones is definitely going to be there. Call of Duty gets its separated developer direct right after that, and with then a Fable and a Perfect Dark and so on. Doom, we're gonna talk about that a little later. I feel like this is gonna be a super exciting showcase. All the questionable business decisions aside, games-wise, it's in the near-term future looking absolutely awesome, and gonna see a lot of good stuff there this year. So, yeah, why not have waited with the announcement until after that?
Yeah.
But yeah, let's stay on this on the subject of Xbox. And earlier this week we got a report from Jez Corden, and a lot of people picked it up, that under the project name Latitude, Microsoft is reportedly looking into bringing more first-party games to PlayStation, and it's claimed that there is no red line for which games could be released this year. You in any way, shape, or form surprised by that?
I'm surprised that the article said that when Jez Corden didn't say that, because that's where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah. Just getting to that, but yeah. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. But ultimately, no, Satya himself, because ultimately that's where this trail of thought is. Satya himself doesn't have a red line. I think there's people internally at Xbox that do have their own red lines as to, okay, like these certain things have been the birth of the console. Ultimately, we wouldn't want these going elsewhere because you still need to have a drive. But Satya doesn't see it that way. And ultimately, this is kind of what's happening in Xbox now, and why you can't really rule out anything. Because Satya's doing what Microsoft have always typically done and overreached departments and kind of took control over everything, as opposed to just letting the heads of those areas of the business get on with their jobs and run it the way that they think is going to be successful. Satya doesn't see it that way. He doesn't see why exclusivity exists. He doesn't think exclusivity should be a thing. And he wants every game on everything. So that's why there is this overarching feeling of there isn't a red line. And I can understand why the report still went with it, even though that's not what Jez says. But what Jez was alluding to mainly is that Satya doesn't have that feeling of a red line. He doesn't understand that the way some internally at Xbox do, that there is red lines that you shouldn't cross. Like, if PlayStation started putting God of War and The Last of Us and everything else away, there would be absolute hell on.
Oh yeah,
and rightfully so. These are franchises that ultimately birthed the console and where it was and where it is. So it shouldn't be that these franchises go elsewhere. Ultimately, if you keep your core franchises to yourself and you still create other brand new IPs that maybe go everywhere, that's an entirely different thing. If you're creating brand new IPs that go everywhere, fine, so be it, if that's what your third party rule is going to be. But ultimately, I still believe that core franchises, ones that help birth the console in the first place, should remain exclusive because it has an identity. Master Chief is Xbox. Xbox is Master Chief. Forza is Xbox.
Yeah.
Xbox is Forza. It's these core franchises. Gears of War, for instance. I know they keep mentioning that going to PlayStation as well, but Gears is ultimately the one that, when Halo wasn't doing as great on the 360, and then Gears rose to prominence. Gears was the one that really pulled that 360 generation into one of their best, if not best, generations ever, because of the Gears of War franchise. And that is also a stable franchise and something that should remain exclusive. Same goes for PlayStation. Like, if any of these companies know it, ultimately, going forwards, if you want to make brand new IPs that aren't staple franchise and make them multi-plat, so be it. That's a business decision you'll be making there and then on IPs we've never played before. And that's an argument we can have all day long. But I think ultimately core franchises should remain core. Should remain just exclusive.
I do agree. I mean, and I will die on that hill. I feel like exclusives give a platform, an ecosystem, an identity, and for Xbox, that has always been like Halo, Halo, Gears, and Forza. I mean, these franchises have been carrying them basically also through the entire Xbox One generation, and exclusives are to some degree definitely important because of that. And when I talk about exclusives, I mean console exclusives, because we've seen that because Xbox has been doing the PC release thing for almost 10 years now. Like they started that, I think, in 2016 with Quantum Break. I want to say that was 2016, something like that. So eight years long. And we've seen that for the most part, consoles and PC gamers really don't rival. So I have no problem with every game coming day one also to PC. That's really not the issue, because I feel like people either like to play on PC or on console. And yes, especially in the hardcore gamer scene, we've seen a lot of people switch from console now to PC. But in the overall market, people buy a console for a different reason than people buy a gaming PC. And that's just what it is. So I'm totally fine with that. On consoles, though, I'm always pro competition, and having an identity of your console platform and having a reason to invest into that particular ecosystem is just what increases the competition. And I feel like Sony has been lacking of competition for way too long. And that's what I ultimately want. I want a strong Xbox and a strong PlayStation, because when they start to fight for our wallets, then that's when we benefit the most. And exclusives help there. Absolutely, they do. So I'm not really sold on this whole let's bring all games to PlayStation. And I, even with Satya in the company, I don't think that they will do that. There will be definitely more games going to PlayStation. I have also no doubt about that. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. From the top of my head, I say I'm not particularly happy about it, because Xbox is now in a position, finally, after way too long, that they can compete with PlayStation again, just like they did in the early 360 days, where they had these absolute bangers as exclusives from the first parties with the stable house power IPs, Halo 3, remember when that came out, and Gears 2, and then they and Gears 1, of course, Gears 1 and 2, or even like timed exclusives at a time, games like Mass Effect or Oblivion and things like that, where they were really competing on a serious and level with PlayStation. And now after almost an entire generation of the Xbox One where they weren't able to compete with the games, Xbox has become, as a console, not the entire ecosystem, but Xbox has become basically irrelevant when it comes to terms of competition. And them being outsold 5-1, 6-1 here in Europe during the Xbox One generation, and it's now sometimes even 10-1 in the early years of the Series X and S, and now they are at this point where they finally have enough games. They have enough coming this year. I mean, look, next week we got Hellblade, and we have Avowed, and we have Indiana Jones coming, Stalker 2 coming, and even some awesome smaller games like a Towerborn coming. So games-wise, this year is looking great, and next year is gonna be just as good. Yeah, where we will get probably the next Doom and a Fable, and maybe, I don't know, a Perfect Dark, or Clockwork Revolution, or...
You were so close to saying Orange again there.
Yeah, I was so close. I was so close, man. I had to concentrate. I had to concentrate. But I managed, man. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, we are now at this point where they finally have that cadence that we all wanted, where on a regular basis we get good and quality games. And now they kind of give that narrative up. And I feel like in the bigger kind of gaming industry, where you also look a lot at the casual market, people that don't follow the gaming news on a daily basis, like probably everyone here in chat and us, and yeah, we will look like in the news every day, and we are actively online, maybe on Twitter or somewhere else, in Discord or something, and talk about this stuff. In the bigger picture, yeah, the headlines are now, okay, you can play Xbox games on PlayStation, and I really don't see how this will like strengthen the competition in the console market. And I know that's not their intention. They just look at making money, and it could be that in a short term it makes sense. Yeah, Sea of Thieves apparently selling really well on PlayStation now, getting more monthly active users. All cool, all good. But does it really help to increase the competition in the console market? I don't think so. So yeah, it's not surprising that they are talking about bringing more games over. And I think you and I, we both said in January, when this whole discussion break loose, that we both would place a bet that by the end of the year it's definitely more than these 4 games. But yeah, it is what it is, man. Anything you want to add?
Yep. No, I think it's there's definitely going to be more games. What those games are, though, I think is, you know what I think could be the case for Xbox going forwards, is that these games they'll be day and date on Xbox, but they'll come 12 months later on rival consoles. I think that's going to probably be the strat. I can see them using that as their form of exclusivity. It's kind of making like their own games timed exclusive.
Yeah, could be.
In which case, then they give people a reason to have an Xbox initially, but then ultimately, if you own a PlayStation, you'll get to play them at some point. If that's their strategy, then that's their strategy. I don't know whether or not they'll go down the line of, okay, we're making it completely multi-plat permanently. You're muted.
Oh, pardon me. Yeah, we shall see where this goes. And yeah, again, I'm not surprised that they are thinking about bringing more games over, and maybe even bigger games. But it is what it is. I still hope and think that they are not bringing like everything over. Certain games will remain exclusives, or like you said, at least timed exclusives. But yeah, it's a kind of a shame, man. I would have loved to see where the console market goes if Xbox is gonna bring out 2 years straight great games. Yeah, 24 already looking awesome with, again, all those games. Next year is going to be awesome. And then I would have loved to see where does the console market go in 26, maybe even with the next gen then, which is rumored to be launched in 26. How would that generation do in terms of market share in the console space? If there is no narrative about Xbox not having games, and let's be real, so far for this gen they didn't have games. It's like 3-4 like major releases. Back in 21 they launched the console without any games. 21 they had Forza Horizon 5 and Halo, and then in 22 nothing. And then last year they had Starfield and Forza, and that's about it. That was this gen after 3.5 years. And of course it's not, with that lineup they are not in a position to compete. But now they are at this point. I would have loved to see that, but they kind of destroyed that narrative with all these things going on. And the headlines are now play your Xbox games on PlayStation, even though it's not true. You can't play a Hellblade there, and you can't play a Starfield there, and you won't be able to play an Avowed there, as of right now, at least. But that's what the general headlines are. So, it is what it is, man. Let us move on from this, and let's talk about PlayStation. Actually, they announced their new CEO after Jim Ryan leaving the company earlier this year, and the interim CEO. They now have 2 CEOs. Herman Holst is gonna be leading basically the games departments, just as before, but including all other gaming related content such as TV crossovers and stuff like that. And the other guy is, I don't know really how to pronounce him, Hideaki Nishino, maybe. He's gonna be more in charge of the hardware department and platform department, and
hardware and third parties.
Third parties, And with that, they replaced Jim Ryan basically by 2 guys. So what do you think about this choice and the fact that it is 2 CEOs?
I mean, I think giving them the title CEOs is kind of impractical, because ultimately it's the Xbox setup. Xbox have people in charge of certain sections of the company, and then you have the ultimate CEO. The ultimate CEO is still who the interim was, which is Hiroki Totoki or whatever his name was, the FD guy.
But he's
ultimately
the Sony CEO for PlayStation and Sony
ultimately
Entertainment.
He's still the de facto in this sense, because he's still their boss. He's still telling them what to do, and having them individually is essentially like Herman Hulst and Hideo. Did you say
Hideaki? Hideaki. I really don't know how to pronounce him. Hideaki. Yeah. The other guy.
But ultimately, having those 2 is exactly the same as having a Matt Booty and a Sarah Bond, because Sarah Bond's in charge of hardware, and otherwise Matt Booty's in charge of the studios, and Phil Spencer is boss. So it's the same. It's like calling both of those CEOs when they're not CEOs.
Parasite in the chat says the new CEO is Parap the Rapper.
They're going to do the Dragon Ball Z fusion technique, and they're going to merge into one CEO at the end. You'll just see them doing the put the earrings in and do the dance. But ultimately it's the Hiroki Totoki was the acting There was the board, but he was the acting CEO. But ultimately, I think he's still the de facto main boss. And they've divided the CEO responsibilities between Herman Hulst and the other chap. So it's going to make Herman Hulst's job a lot easier because he only has to focus on the studios, the first party studios, and getting their games up, running, and out. And then the other guy can focus on hardware and third party relationships. So it's going to make each of their jobs is going to get significantly easier for them and allow them to concentrate on what they need to do.
Yeah.
As opposed to one guy does everything and kind of stretch across.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, Luke in the chat is bringing up a good point. Totoki isn't CEO of Sony. He is part of the board of management and was interim.
He was acting CEO. Yeah,
acting CEO of PlayStation. Or interim CEO, or whatever you want to call that. And ultimately, it's not like Herman and the other guy has directly have like the one boss above them. Totoki isn't that in the wider Sony organization per se. Ultimately, of course, they have to report to the Sony company and the Sony chairman. But yeah, it's still feels like a different scenario where Phil has not just Sarah and
it's the same
Matt,
but different.
Matt under him. He has like this entire hierarchy of different departments under him, and having worked in big gigantic corporations for almost my entire professional career, I don't really know how to feel about that, because ultimately you need one decision maker. Whenever it's like, I know a lot of big companies now set up their hierarchy towards more like empowerment and co-creation, and we want to split the decision-making process and so on. What ultimately happens, it slows all things down. And you can do that in good times, when a company is doing well, but in hard times, it comes down to having one guy making the final decision. So maybe it works for Sony, maybe it doesn't. I really don't know how well they are prepared to not have the ultimate final decision maker, but always to have to rely on basically two CEOs. On the other hand, I feel like Herman Holst is, at least from the guys we know, probably the best choice, because he has his roots in games development, and feel like that is a good call. Yeah, Jim Ryan wasn't that. He didn't have his roots in game development. He's not a dev. He never came across as a gamer, a genuine gamer that cared for gaming. John Layden was that. Herman Holst is that. I really have no idea who the other guy is. Hideaki. So I can't judge. Let's see how he does. I know he's been with the PlayStation organization apparently for decades. So at least he knows how Sony or PlayStation, the PlayStation division, actually works from the inside. I mean, I feel like it can only get better after Jim, because that guy was really not what gamers wanted. And I feel like Herman Holst is definitely from the guys we know, and we know a lot less executives within the PlayStation organization, because they are just not as communicative, let's call it that, as Xbox is, where you know all these guys. You know the head of marketing. Everyone knows Aaron Greenberg. You know Sarah Bond, Matt Booty. We know these guys. We know they are communicative. Sony isn't that. And I don't mean that in a negative way, because sometimes I feel like maybe Xbox is talking too much at the end of the day, while Sony tries to talk a little bit more through what they do, good or bad. You know what I mean? But yeah, we shall see. We shall see where this goes. I'm kind of glad for the PlayStation department that not a corporate guy from Sony came in, like Totoki was the interims. We've seen how he kind of talked about, okay, yeah, our studios, they are doing good jobs, but they have no idea how to run a business. And I feel like, of course, this will be pressure that will be put on those two new CEOs as well from the mother company. We need more growth, we need more revenue, we need this and that. But ultimately, Herman Holtz, as a genuine gamer and game developer, is in charge now of the content side of things. And I hope the other guy does just as good as a job on the platform side of things. So, yeah, let's see where this goes. Let's stay on the subject of PlayStation real quick, because this was a big discussion point this week. We learned quite a few things about sales numbers from Sony. They reported like a 30% drop in console sales year over year, but they also reported 59 million console units shipped, which puts them basically on par with the live-to-date sales of the PlayStation 4, which was a very successful console for them.
They're actually also slightly tracking behind it now.
Yeah, super slightly though. So more or less rounded, they are basically on track. But they also talked about them wanting to focus less on sales numbers and focus more on monthly active users. And guess who did that for what now? 7-8 years now? Xbox. Where they stopped reporting console sales at all, and rather reported like monthly active users on the platform, and basically at least make that the public KPI to measure the success and healthiness of the platform. So what do you think about this debate? Because I have a lot to say, and I've seen a lot of people discussing this online. Why is Sony stopping to focus on sales numbers, focusing more on monthly active users? You think? What's your take on all this?
When it comes to sales numbers, it doesn't really give an actual clear picture of what's happening. Because Sony in the past used to tell people, okay, this is the shipped number of consoles. Shipped doesn't say anything. Okay, what's the sell-through of those shipped? Not only what is the sell-through, but how many of those sold-through units are actually being used? You could have 50 million sold-through units, but only 30 million of them are active and being used. In which case, then your user base isn't 50 million. Your user base is 30 million.
Yeah.
So it doesn't give an actual clear picture. And I think Sony, as well as everybody else, are fully aware of that, which is why Microsoft haven't really focused on it either, because you might be able to sell 20, 30, 40 million units, but if those 20, 30, 40 million units aren't actively being used, and the MEBIs have like half of those being used frequently, another half being used semi-frequently, and then the other section of it being used very rarely, that doesn't give a clearer picture of, okay, well, this is the active user base, because that isn't the case, which means the likelihood of saying, okay, we have 50 million customers we can sell to isn't realistic. Because the active user base isn't 50 million. Like, the active user base is the amount of people that are on there and actively playing games. And that's the people that you're selling to, not the people that occasionally turn a game on, like a console on, to play FIFA or Madden. They're not the ones that are going to go out and buy God of War. They're not the ones that are going to go out and buy like The Last of Us or anything like that. The vast majority of the times, they're the ones that just get your Madden or your NBA 2K or your FIFAs year on year. Your Call of Duties, that's the user base. So you can't really track what your entire user base is doing based on a sales metric. So monthly average users or monthly active users is a better metric to understand what your user base is and what to target. As well as when it comes to games tracking. Okay, we've sold X amount of units, but only like out of the 15 million sold units, only 5 million of them have got past the first chapter. You know? So what happened in that initial period of the game that turned people off the game? So it gives like that is a good understanding as to what your monthly active users, the monthly basically the MAU is every month per game, per machine, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That gives a better metric as to what's going right and what's going wrong, as opposed to what a sales figure. A sales figure is nothing.
Yeah.
You can sell somebody anything. It doesn't mean they're going to, like, if I sold you a watch, it doesn't mean you're going to wear it.
Yeah. Yeah, true that.
There's no guarantees. And there's no guarantees you're going to use it. It's the same if you're given, if with everything, to be honest, and this, we've been seeing this as well, the likes of Netflix, Disney Plus, none of them report how many users they've got now. They stopped ages ago. Like, it's very rare that they go out and sell. The vast majority of times, the only time you hear them talking about numbers is when a hit show comes up and they go, we've had 60 million views in the first 24 hours. We've had 100 million views. And this is our most successful TV show to date. It's had 100 million people watching the entire series. Like, that's when they'll talk about users, because that's engagement. This is how we measure success. It's the amount of people that have actually watched it or actually done it. If you go out and say, we've sold X amount of subscriptions, that's great. You've got 120 million subscribers, and yet only 10 million people watched that series. Is that successful?
You still got to make the money off of it.
Yeah, but
you're not making any more money the more people watch. But I do agree.
But that's, you know what I mean?
See, I totally agree that sales numbers of a console alone doesn't really tell you the whole story, how successful your ecosystem is doing, because even without PC now being in that picture, you still have like approximately half of those monthly active users on PlayStation playing on the PS4. So what does it really tell you about the success of a console? It helps you in certain parts. Of course, having a bigger install base makes the possibility of you have more potential customers for games, makes it more attractive for third-party developers and so on. But that's why I really wonder why the gaming industry, Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo, don't use a different metric than monthly active users, because monthly active users also only tell you part of the story. See, I've played H4 for 700 hours plus, and I have not spent a single cent in the game because there is no in-game monetization on it. So in terms of how valuable is that time that I spent on there? Well, I don't think that monthly active users or engagement time is telling you also the whole story. Yeah. I always wonder
certain metrics and it isn't in others.
Yeah, so but see, why don't they use a KPI like, I don't know, average money spent per monthly active user?
Well, that would be a good one. But the reason I'm saying it depends on what the metric's being used for is, for instance, like you said, you've spent hundreds of hours in Age 4 and you've played it countless amount of times, blah, 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 blah. That metric can be used to say, okay, so in terms of those who played the game, how much of this game did they play? How much did they enjoy it? How engrossed were they in that game? That will tell them whether or not that game in itself was enjoyable to the user base that played it. I agree from a monetary terms, how much per user was the average spend, etc., is a good way to look at it on that basis. But in terms of measuring the success and the enjoyment of a game, you'll ultimately find monthly active users or metrics like playtime. Okay, so the average playtime per user, like for instance, Starfield had quite a significantly high average user.
Yeah.
That had something like 40, 50 hours average users per user, which was actually very high for a game, to be honest, having at least an average user of 40 or 50.
Absolutely.
Which tells them that people were really enjoying the game. So, okay, despite the negative feedback, we've had people that have played a significant amount of this game, which means it was something that kept them coming back. So we did something good, so we can take positives away from this and also use the feedback in order to increase that time played. And likewise, that's what I'm talking about, finding, okay, if you release a game and you've had 5 million sales, but the monthly average users, it shows them that average play time is only 5 hours of that game, and it's a 35-hour campaign. It tells you that the users dropped off that game pretty quickly, so the enjoyment wasn't there. So then that metric is different. Like I'm saying, it's internally, there's so many things they can do with it.
Don't get me wrong. I totally agree that monthly active users probably tells you a better story than console sales. Because at the end of the day, as long as you keep players in your ecosystem, turning on the console and play something on it, logging into Xbox Live on PC and play something, or logging on PlayStation in and play something in your ecosystem, is definitely a good better metric. But ultimately, it comes down to how much money do you make off your monthly active users. If people only log in to play like one game and not spend any money on it, you can play like everyday Fortnite, not spend a single cent, and then count as a monthly active user. And that's it's just me personally wondering why there isn't a metric like attach rate. How many games per monthly active users are sold, or wouldn't count for like microtransaction stuff. And we know that a lot of the revenue generated now in gaming is through in-game monetization. But that's why I said, like, money spent per monthly active user is probably the healthiest way to look at, okay, how well are we doing on the business side of things? It's just me, wondering why they don't report something like that. Because we know, for instance, that the attach rate, the games bought per console owner is way higher on the Xbox side of things than on PlayStation, because PlayStation is also the casual machine, the guys that buy like the FIFA and the Call of Duty every year and nothing else. Those kind of gamers are way higher on PlayStation side of things than on the Xbox side of things, where there are less casuals, more hardcores, because the casuals probably don't even know that the console exists. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, isn't that the metric that you're interested in? Okay, how much do people spend in our ecosystem? Maybe be through a subscription, through game purchases or in-game purchases, But ultimately, that's what it comes down to. You want people to not just spend time there, but to actually, spend money in your ecosystem. However, I find it very interesting that Sony, who have been so relentless about talking about, we sold this many consoles and that many, and I don't think that they will go the exact same route like Xbox, where they completely stop reporting console sales. But to come out now and say, okay, we want to focus way more on the monthly active users thing just tells me personally, okay, hey, they take PC now way more serious, and that's how they prepare everyone. Like, okay, the next time a big game comes out, we will launch day one on PC, and it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, the important thing to brag about is monthly active users, and you have to put in the PC players there as well. Ghost of Tsushima now on PC, and so on. You want to report all those players as well, and you can't do that if you just report like console sales. Yeah, so it just tells me that PlayStation is also way more serious now, especially after the big success of a Helldivers 2. Where they've seen, okay, if we release a game also on PC, it can go viral, because that's basically what happened with Helldivers. It kind of went viral on PC, and we've seen the numbers. The vast majority of game sales was on PC, not on console. They reported like it broke the God of War record and shipped, what was it? Hang on, where do we have it? 12 million copies in 12 weeks. That record was held by God of War Ragnarok, which approximately did 11 point something million in the same time. And so it's the best-selling game, because of the multi-platform release, PC and console. And of course, they want to count all those, I don't know exactly, 10 million Steam players of Hellblade as well. Helldivers. Too many games that have hell. Well, focusing on Helldivers. The Helldivers players on PC, you want to report those numbers as well. That's why they had this entire disaster where they wanted people to force people into logging in to PlayStation Network, because let us report those numbers as being active monthly users in our ecosystem. And again, I double down on that, and I would place a bet that whatever the next big PlayStation first-party game is, and if it's a single-player, third-person action-adventure, the next Naughty Dog game, whatever the next bigger first-party release is, will also come day and date to Game Pass PC. Man, I'm confused today. You know what I mean? I've no doubt, because everything that Sony has been doing as of late all points towards that direction. Let's bring in the PC players as well. And them talking about, okay, let's report on monthly active users is just another way to say, okay, we really need to focus on that. I
think ultimately what PlayStation realized is that console sales don't translate into unit sales for games. They're just, to them, it doesn't, and it hasn't. Like, they've, especially last generation, if you have a look at it, and that's what Jim Ryan. I'm getting mixed up now.
Must be a virus here, man.
Phil Ryan and Jim Spencer. That's why, like, last generation, when Sony had 120 million units, or almost 130 million units, and they were selling games at 10 million, and you were like, it's great that they sold 10 million units, but they have 120 million like consoles to sell to. So the sell through and the attach rate it's only 1 in 12. Like, it's not really big translation into your user base. And ultimately, Sony will be realizing this now and thinking, you know what it is. And Square Enix have obviously realized it, but Square Enix are going away from having exclusivity agreements, and they want to kind of pull back and be a complete multi-plat developer again. Because having 50 million units or having 30 million units or 120 million, it really doesn't matter how many units you've got. It doesn't actually translate into sales. None of it matters. It really doesn't, because there's no guarantee that anybody on that platform will pick the game up and play it anyway. So the actual metric of how much sales in terms of hardware units you've sold is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's how many active users and how many of those active users are spending money frequently.
Yeah.
That's when you're going to know who's going to buy a game. And those are the ones that ultimately, okay, so out of these 120, only 60 million of those are actively purchasing content frequently. So that's the target. That's the area that we should be kind of focusing against, right? We have 60 active spenders on our platform, 60 million active spenders. That is our audience, not the 120. That's like a Fugazi. It's like, oh, we've got 120 million units. Great. And how many of those are being frequently used and actually buy things on it? Like that's why month of active users, or maybe even you're breaking it down further, how much is spent per active user translates into a higher sales frequency. And then you're breaking it down into types of games that are more popular on each platforms and things like that. And then you'll know kind of what areas to target, so on and so forth. But yeah, it's the sales ultimately sales figures, they just don't tell the full story. And I'm a salesman anyway, so I know from my day-to-day job I can sell, and I do corporate energy, so I'd sell big to big businesses and corporations and things like that. But if you buy an empty unit and that empty unit's only using say $100 of energy a year versus another unit that's using $10 million of energy per year, and I sell both of those, is that true reflection of which one's going to be a sale? Like they're both sales at the end of the day, but which one's actually got value? It's not the $100. That one doesn't have any value. That doesn't mean anything to the business. That's cost me time more than anything. The $10 million sale, however, on the other hand, the one that has value and is consuming a lot, that's the one that is worth something. And ultimately, that's how it is in any sales business. You can sell a shipped unit to somebody, but if that shipped unit's not being used or rarely gets used, that's valueless. It's just an empty box that's sitting for nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas there's another one, and that unit has significant consumption or is being used frequently and a lot, and they're always doing things and always requiring assistance and always needing games. That's the value. That's the one that you're trying to target. So it's just the same with everything. It's the same with everything. It's the same with mobile phones. You can sell as many mobile phones as you like, but if that person doesn't buy loads of accessories for it or buys loads of things on the phone or does, that's all it is. It makes no difference. What value is it to them? So their monthly active users is the better way to look at it, but ultimately it's breaking that monthly active user thing down to how many of those monthly active users are frequent spenders and how many of those aren't. Yeah. And then you can tailor your proposition to that.
Agree. So yeah, let's see how Sony is going to handle the day and dates to PC kind of thing. They're definitely aiming to grow the monthly active users, not just the console install base. But yeah, let's move away from Sony real quick. Or in a way, we stay with Sony, but let's talk about Square Enix. Now, their stock price dropped nearly 16% this week after a very underwhelming financial report. And obviously, that has a lot to do with their heavy hitters, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy XVI, not performing as well as they were hoping. They overpromised and didn't sell as many units as intended. And so they announced a change in strategy that they will make all their AAA games now aggressively multi-platform for all systems, and they have a very aggressive business plan to sell a lot more, and obviously they want to abandon the money-headed AAA releases. I mean, they probably still got a fair fair amount of money from Sony for making the game exclusive to PlayStation. Yeah, but then not selling enough units and losing all that money by not bringing your games to PC and day to PC and to Xbox and Switch. Is something that they are going to change. So, what do you think about this strong shift in strategy? Because Square was one of the
Yep, it's about fucking time.
yeah, indeed.
There is, and I'm going to say this, and this isn't just Square Enix, but every third party. There is absolutely 0 point, apart from a little cash bumper up front. There was 0 point in platform exclusivity. Microsoft realized that a long time ago. The last time they did a platform exclusive third party, not second party, where they're essentially part funding and helping build the game. That's a different story. When we're talking about an actual third party developer, money hunting games like that, I think the last one Xbox did for an actual third party like that, where they haven't helped fund it full stop, was Tomb Raider. Yeah. When they got the exclusivity for Tomb Raider. You still, and everybody should still absolutely expect indie titles to go exclusive on platforms day and date, and then release on other platforms at a later date, because indies do actually need that kind of support. So still expect indie studios to have those kinds of exclusivity agreements with both platforms. That does help them. But with regards big corporations like your Square Enix and your Ubisofts and your EAs and things like that, none of those studios, and Rockstar is exactly the same, none of those studios should be money-hatted or should be timed exclusive on any platform. It makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. It makes no sense.
What about Stalker 2? I mean, they're going to do that this year with Stalker 2.
Yeah, timed exclusivity. Yep, timed exclusivity. That's right. But again, I think that's ultimately down to the developer. If you have a read of what they're saying, and it's ultimately that's all they've got time to do. It's not that they aren't releasing it on every platform and potentially won't in the future. But Xbox is the one that supported them originally. They're the one that's given them the backing, and that's why the game is coming out, and stood by them throughout the conflicts and their reorganization and everything like that, and have done a lot for them. So ultimately, that's the decision on the developer in order to, okay, we're going to get the game out. It's going to go exclusive on Xbox first and PC, Xbox, PC, Steam. They've never once said it's never coming to PlayStation, that game, by the way, and I fully believe that game will be on PlayStation within a year after its release. But
the only thing they said, they don't have a PlayStation version in the works right now. That's what they said.
Yeah, because they're just focusing on one. It's again with indie studios, and that is an indie studio. You're going to get those. You will, and you'll continue to get those because they do need support. But with big corporations like your Square Enixes, and I would even say same would apply to the likes of CDPR, but they've never done that. But your big corporations, like your Squares and your EAs and your Ubis and things, and your Take-Twos and Rockstars and things, it really does nothing for them. It absolutely does nothing for them. Like you say, a little cash bumper, but at the same time, you could just pay. You could pay the same amount and get that for marketing. So if Sony still wanted to market Final Fantasy VII, they could pay to have the marketing rights, and they could do that. It would have the same effect. It would have the absolutely same effect as it would if you paid for exclusivity.
Yeah, marketing deals. I would still much rather prefer like day one Game Pass launch, something like that. I don't really have a benefit from a game being exclusive to Xbox or PlayStation, a third-party game,
Well, to PlayStation specifically, we know the power of their marketing power.
Yeah.
Makes people believe that game is exclusive anyway, so it makes no difference if
because
PlayStation.
There is no marketing on the Xbox side of things for nothing.
Exactly. So all PlayStation have to do anyway is pay for the marketing or pay towards the marketing of the game or get the marketing rights and it's as good to them as exclusivity because people are going to just associate that game with PlayStation anyway. Likewise with Xbox, if Xbox paid for the marketing of, for instance, Cyberpunk, when that game released, the vast majority of people were just talking about the Xbox version of Cyberpunk and the PC version because it was marketed towards Xbox. And that's how it always does that way. Like, that's just how marketing is. Effective marketing does that. And again, Cyberpunk was helped because it had Keanu Reeves in it. So you had that star factor for Cyberpunk when it released.
Yeah, definitely.
The likes of Spider-Man, of course, and obviously on PlayStation, that is a big star factor. But then you have a look at Final Fantasy. That's a big one over in Asian territories and the West. And having that marketing factor is exactly the same thing. You just attribute it to PlayStation. So exclusivity for big third-party studios is pointless.
Yeah.
All you have to do is pay for marketing, and you get the same effect.
See, I'm also glad that they are moving away from that approach. I'm still bummed, like Octopath Traveler 2 not being on the platform. You know, Final Fantasy 16 was actually an awesome game, as was Rebirth. Great game, yeah. There's no reason why Xbox players or PC players, for that matter, shouldn't have the chance to play that. And obviously, in an age where even console manufacturers start to put their first party games on the rival platform, and Sony, a company who was like really, this is our value proposition. The console is our value proposition to the customers. This is where you get the exclusive games, opens that up to being basically a multi-platform, excluding, of course, other consoles, but going to PC and providing their games to a much larger potential customer base. It really doesn't make any sense for, like you said, any third-party publisher to follow that route and release a game just on one platform. So yeah, I do hope, man, that we will see Final Fantasy, the remake, the remakes, and Rebirth, as well as Final Fantasy 16 eventually.
There's mountains of Square games that aren't on Xbox.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, still waiting for Octopath Traveler. They have announced it for this year. It's supposed to come this year, but we're still waiting. We have Ayuden Chronicles now, so probably it doesn't matter right now. But you know what I mean.
We need to stress this again for people who are waiting for an Octopath Traveler 2 on Xbox or anything like that, and you haven't played Ayuden Chronicles. Play Ayuden Chronicles.
Oh yeah, definitely. Ayuden is awesome, man. Ayuden, love it. Anyways, so do you think we will see? I think, for the most part, it's Final Fantasy what people want on PC and Xbox, of course. Do you think there's a chance that with this new, they called it aggressive business plan, Square is now working actively on an Xbox and PC version? PC was highly likely to come anyway, at least for Rebirth, because Remake also made it to PC eventually. So we were all expecting Rebirth to come to PC at some point. I think it was, what was it, 3 or 4 months timed exclusivity is what they said before launch for Rebirth. So we should maybe in June or so, or could see a Rebirth come to PC. But do you think Xbox players will eventually be able to play those games now?
Yes.
Or do you think it's only for further future Square games that they are going to go multi-plat?
No, I don't think so. I think for them, they'll be trying to get every version of their games, including 16, 7 Remake, 7 Rebirth, and the final version onto all consoles, to be fair, and all platforms. And going forwards, in terms of announcements of things like that, I think June's too close, but also I think June's going to be focused on 1P for Xbox announcements. Yeah. I think it's not going to have third party. I think they're going to do another partner showcase like they did last year. If you remember that.
Yeah.
They did a partner showcase where it was only third-party announcements, and I think one of them was Final Fantasy 14. Oh no, was it? And they talked more about it at the Developer Direct in January when they announced the beta date of Final Fantasy 14. So I think they'll do a partner showcase of similar kin this year anyway, talking about potentially that's where you might hear about your Octopath Traveler release date. Maybe hear about a Final Fantasy 16 port or something along those lines. I think maybe the one thing with the 7 remake trilogy, I would say, is it depends on whether or not they want to break the exclusivity contract or buy themselves out of it. Its likelihood is we'll probably see 7 remake and rebirth trilogy on Xbox when the trilogy is complete.
It's all out. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think that's the likelihood for that. With regards to other Square Enix titles, I can just see them putting them on Xbox going forwards. And 16 likely to ship over to Xbox soon because they've finished their DLCs for that now. It's all done with that one. That one's finished. There's no reason to have exclusivity on that anymore for PlayStation anyway. They've already had the Rise and Tide and Echoes of the Fallen released. So, that's done.
What about this? What was it called? The game with the female character came out early last year, January, February last year. That really didn't do well. Man, I'm blanking on the name. This open world game with the chick. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name. You got it? Forspoken. Yes, exactly. Forspoken. You think we might see something like that coming?
Absolutely. that game did terribly. So, no, I fully expect to see 16, Forspoken, and all of those malarks on Xbox. And I will, again, I own every Final Fantasy wherever it can be owned. And I will absolutely be double dipping on Xbox. I'll buy 16 again and finish it again. I'll buy 7 Remake again and finish it again. I'll buy 7 Rebirth and finish that again. Absolutely. I loved Remake. I'm loving Rebirth. I'm still need to finish that. I loved 16, even though I didn't think I would. I ended up loving it. I've got to play the Rise and Tides DLC, which I'm going to love. Believe it or not, I haven't played Forspoken yet, but I'm going to give it a chance. See what it's like, see if it's any good. I know people thought the protagonist was annoying, and some of the wording was annoying, but ultimately I think a lot of people after the fact have said the gameplay in itself is all right, actually. So I'm not going to shout on it until I've played it. But yeah, I can see those games coming over to Xbox, no doubt. Games that didn't perform as well as they expected, like 16 and Forspoken and a few others. Yeah, Octopath Traveler 2, for instance, that massively underperformed compared to what they thought. So I can see that one going across there as well.
Yeah. And I see in the chat a lot of love for Final Fantasy 16, man.
Yes.
Which is well deserved. 16 was a very, very good Final Fantasy. Probably not the best ever, but it's definitely up there.
It was like Game of Thrones meet Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Loved the story. Loved the combat system. It was I had an absolute blast, and I couldn't recommend it more.
Have you played the DLC yet? Are you going to play the DLC?
The first DLC, the very short one that was only like 2 hours long, I played that. I didn't play the second yet.
Yes, so you're same as me. Then we need to play the second one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rise is meant to be quite big, and it's apparently that's got a good little boss battle in it as well.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see where this goes with Square. at least I think one thing is sure, that whatever comes next from them is not going to be an exclusive in any way, shape, or form. And whether we will eventually get the Final Fantasies on Xbox, let's see about that. I mean, Octopath Traveler is at least at now announced, so that will come eventually. Actually, looking forward to that. Been this close to buying it actually on Steam, because it would also probably play very well on the LE. So yeah, let's see. That's another thing that got me super excited this week. And I know it's probably an unpopular opinion, because people love to hate on Ubisoft games for whatever reason, is Assassin's Creed Shadows, which was formerly codenamed Red. The one that plays in Japan got its first trailer. It was a cinematic trailer, yeah. But with that, they announced, of course, also the release date of November 15th. It's called Assassin's Creed Shadows. You will play as two protagonists in that game. A girl and a guy. And it will feature an updated version of the Anvil engine, so they're not gonna move Assassin's Creed over to the Snowdrop engine, but they've updated the Anvil engine. It will have a global elimination system. It will be next gen, or not, we shouldn't call it next gen anymore. It's current gen only game. Valhalla, the last open world Assassin's Creed. Yes, we had Mirage last year, but that was more like a smaller experience. Great game, though. I enjoyed it. But the last big one was Valhalla, which obviously was basically a launch title for this gen and was released as cross-gen. This is now current gen only. They have released a few in-game shots. Looks absolutely stunning. I loved the tone that they set up with the cinematic trailer. They will play a lot around with stealth. That's why it's called Shadows, because they have that global illumination system now. We will be able to hide in the shadows. You will be able to shoot off like lanterns and stuff to stay hidden. And I can't remember whether it was IGN or Eurogamer or someone who described that the two main protagonists that you're gonna play, it's not gonna be like in Odyssey where you had to choose, okay, I'm gonna play as Cassandra or as Alejandro, or what was he called? Yeah, you know what I mean. You had to choose at the beginning of the game. You're gonna either be playing as the male or the female character, and then you had to go through. But it's more like in Syndicate, where you go back and forth in between the two characters. So you will be playing both of them depending on what you do in the story. And everything I've heard about this game in the previews that are up there, and as well as the trailer, it just looks awesome. And I'm actually super excited for Assassin's Creed Shadows. I like Ubisoft games. I know I said it in the beginning. A lot of people love to hate on Ubisoft. How, Fahim in the chat says Alexis was his name in Odyssey. Sorry.
So Iva was the name of the protagonists in Valhalla.
And it was people really seem to love to hate on Ubisoft games, but when I look at most Ubisoft games of the last 3-4 years, they have released some awesome games, man. And yes, a lot of them are open world games, but within that open world formula, that they kind of try to stir things up. Watch Dogs 3 was a very different game than an Assassin's Creed, and Far Cry 6 was an amazing sandbox game. And yes, there are certain things in an open world game that are just what people call the Ubisoft formula. However, a lot of those systems just make sense in an open world video game. They have been proven to be fun mechanics, so I don't really have an issue with certain things being in that game. Avatar was also a very different open world game, and not just because you played it first person. You do that as well in Far Cry or so, but with the parkour system that they have and everything, I feel like they've done a good job in introducing open world games. Does Ubisoft have their misses? Absolutely. Yeah, like every publisher has that. And with Ubisoft, that is especially true because they release so many quirky games, from the Let's Dances to Mario meets Rabbids to, I don't know. But overall, I think for the most part, the bigger Ubisoft games are fun. I enjoyed Avatar and Watch Dogs and Far Cry and even Assassin's Creed Mirage. Yeah, and when I look at Ubisoft this year, they're absolutely on fire. Earlier this year they launched Prince of Persia, which I'm so glad that they gave that game a chance. It's a 2D side scroller Metroidvania and a really really good one. Yeah. Then they have Star Wars Outlaws coming, which looks absolutely phenomenal. We're gonna be playing that in September. Then of course with Assassin's Creed Shadows. I was posting on Twitter like, okay, I'm excited for that. And usually when I post anything Ubisoft related that I like, I get like 10 to 100 comments under that stupid Ubisoft formula and blah blah blah. But this time people, for the very very most part, responded very very positively. So guys, I also want to know from you guys in the chat, what do you think? Are you excited about Assassin's Creed Shadows? Dutch, what do you think? Obviously, you can tell I'm excited, but
yeah, this is the only one out of the kind of lineup of Assassin's Creed that I was really looking for. I've been waiting for
Hexen, man. Hexen sounds also very interesting.
Yeah, but we don't know enough about it yet. And this one, though, as soon as I knew it was feudal Japan, that was me sold.
Yeah.
So I've been looking forward to this one for a while, and then the controversy, if you want to put it like that, is just people that don't know the history of samurais, and Yasuke, the main character, is based on the first black samurai, or the first person of color, if you want to be politically correct, because Yasuke was in history the first person of color that was a samurai. If they chose to use that character, then they chose to use that character. It's nothing to do with DEI. It's just a historical figure. Again, it doesn't mean the entire game has to be historically accurate. We've seen that with Valhalla. We've seen that with Origins. Like, none of those games are historically accurate, but they do use centralized figures from those regions, certain people from those time frames, to base it upon and then tell their story from. So the controversy was idiotic at best, and anybody trying to claim that they offended,
my only thought about this, honestly, was it's kind of interesting to see, because it's for the first time in an Assassin's Creed game that you actually play a historic character. Yeah, because all other protagonists have always been made up. This one isn't. I thought that's a very interesting approach. But
I mean, like you say, with Valhalla, you didn't play as a historical character. You played as Ivor, but in essence, you were apparently the brother, or you were Odin technically.
Yeah.
If you go into the later part of the game, you were essentially Odin, but ultimately, you didn't play as a historical character. Yusuke is a historical person. But that aside, no, the game looks great. I'm not going to get hyper excited about the cinematic trailer, because they had the same kind of awesome looking cinematic trailer for Valhalla that made it look hyper aggressive and like these, like Odin is with us, and remember the big eagle fly, like the crows flying over, and the big war battles and things like that. And then the game had kind of some sections like that, but wasn't really like that at all.
By the way,
so
the eagle is gone. Yeah. There's no like bird thing that bird you can use, view. And will be interesting to see.
It makes sense.
I also read that there is you know, this animation sequence when you unlock a tower and it zooms out and the camera flies around you. Like every time I do that in an Assassin's Creed game, it never gets old. It never gets old.
Yeah.
And this is gone. This, you know, circle camera animation thing. But
but no, hopefully then, if they've got rid of those, the Animus is gone. Please, God. I hope so. You're muted.
Yeah, I totally agree there. I know that the Animus was like what Assassin's Creed basically founded. And the entire story is based around this idea. But after the Ezio trilogy, it was basically over, that storyline. And then they always squeeze that in. And I really do love the open world RPG Assassin's Creeds. Yeah. Origin was great. Odyssey is still my favorite. I even enjoyed Valhalla, even though a lot of people didn't. But the modern day storyline in those games is just so irrelevant. It takes you out of the game. You have to walk around in modern days, read 3 emails, and then you're back to the Animus. There's really no story told.
But it also doesn't meld really make together. Much sense to times, because if you think of, like, there wasn't a Persian assassin running around with Vikings in York, like, and there wasn't Persian assassins running around with the Egyptians. There wasn't Persian assassins running around with the Spartans.
The Spartans,
like, it didn't. It was just clumped in. It was like ham-fisted into the story just to make it an Assassin's Creed. It didn't need it. We've said it for a long time. These games don't need to be Assassin's Creed per se. They just need to be like, this could have just been called an Assassin's Creed game, Shadows, or something like that, or just being called Shadows, and the other one being called Valhalla, and the other one being called Origins and Odyssey. They could have stood on their own 2 feet. They're just, at the moment, I think they're just using the Assassin's Creed name in order to sell a new IP.
And I get that.
Ultimately, that's what they are.
I get that, because the Assassin's Creed name is powerhouse IP. People love it.
Yeah.
But just leave out the Animus, and everyone would be happy. Like, or does someone in the chat disagree with us that in the modern Assassin's Creed game we still need an Animus?
But if they are going to do the Animus, they have to make it about the people that they're investigating, not assassins. Like, okay, we'll do the Animus, but let's look at the history of the samurai. Or yes, we'll do the Animus, but let's look at the history of the Viking. Not, let's continuously look for the history of an assassin.
You see, when you think back to the original Assassin's Creed games, the historic timeline and the modern day timeline, they had like an intertwined storyline.
Yep.
It kind of made sense, and you had something meaningful to do when you played in the present day. Can't really remember whether it was 1 or 2 that had its grand finale in the modern day, you know? This is just not present anymore. There's no storyline told in the modern day sequences, you know? There's nothing meaningful you do. You just wake up in a cabin and you have to check your emails and then go back into the Animus, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, okay, there's really no point in having these storylines in there.
And that's what I'm saying, no, but ham-fisting assassins into those games didn't make any sense either.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
the in Valhalla with the finale was that Ivor ends up being essentially possessed by the ghost of an assassin.
Mm.
You're like, what? So at the end of the game, in post game, you're not actually Ivor. You're the assassin that has hijacked your body.
Yeah,
Like, what sense does that make? Why does that make any difference? Like,
nothing.
what's the point in that? I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
the thing.
Don't get it.
That's the thing, you know. So yeah, but besides that, I'm genuinely excited for that, and I think like Ubisoft is going to have a killer year with Outlaws, which also looks phenomenal. Yeah, Prince of Persia was awesome. So yeah, I'm actually this time I'm really looking forward to the Ubisoft Forward
Yep.
showcase. Yeah, with those two alone, Assassin's Creed, we will probably see gameplay. I mean, it's a safe
Yep.
bet. Yeah, no insider knowledge. Yeah, you don't need to have insider
Yeah.
knowledge to know that it's going to be at the Ubisoft Forward event.
Yeah.
As well as of course Star Wars Outlaws is gonna be there. And now all they need to do is finally show us something Splinter Cell related. I mean,
Yes.
the remake has been what now? Also like announced. I want to say 3 years ago. Could be
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, a long time ago. So if they could do that, pull that off, show us the Assassin's Creed Shadows gameplay. Outlaws we already know looks great, but you're gonna get excited when you see more of that, and then finally show us Splinter Cell. That's gonna be one hell of a show.
Yep. Agree. Be a good Ubisoft show.
Yeah. Speaking of
As long as we
shows,
don't see Just Dance ever again, I'll be
yeah,
fine.
we will see Happy
But
Dance. You know that we're gonna see that.
it's the
And we,
worst, most cringe moment in the world. We had to do that like 10-minute long Just Dance segment at the beginning. You're like, oh
yeah,
my god, no!
it's like you have to be prepared. It's not like like an Xbox or PlayStation show where you just hope to see like, oh, cool game after cool game. That's not what Ubisoft is, because that's
No.
just what they have, and they make a shitload of money off of those games as well. So there is an
Yeah.
audience. I just don't think that audience, that the gamers that are actually excited about a Just Dance turn into a Ubisoft showcase. These showcases
I
are
agree.
they are not marketing events. They are basically for the fans. Yeah, and fans of a Ubisoft and fans of an EA or fans of Xbox, they turn, or PlayStation, yeah, they turn in the respective showcases to get excited about what they can play on the platform in the future. But a casual who just buys Just Dance every year for their daughters or so, yeah, they are not going to tune into these showcases, and that's why I just don't understand why they have these quirky games every year there, when they could actually make the show just a little shorter and better paced by showing the games that actual gaming fans that watch the show are excited about. But yeah, JB 1521
Yeah.
in the chat says, yeah, they just cancelled Heartland. That's true.
Yep.
The Division Heartland, the free to play Division game, just got cancelled, which I also thought like kind of a weird move, because I feel it felt to me at least as if development was pretty far along.
Yeah, it felt from what I've seen last time, the full-on gameplay sequences and everything like that, it looked like it was almost done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
But
unfortunate.
the only thing I can assume is that although the base game might have been done, the content road for it going forwards wasn't worth their time. So they just thought a couple of losses before we get to that point. Like we don't have a good enough content roadmap for this game to sustain free to play.
Maybe. I still hope that we're gonna see a Division 3, proper Division 3, at some point. because I actually really enjoyed The Division, especially 2. Remember, there was like quite a phenomenon when they launched the current gen patch.
Yes.
And like
Yeah,
everyone
we all
was
played it then.
playing. Like
Yeah.
it was like as if the game just released. My entire friends list, everyone was playing The Division 2 again, and everyone had a blast.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's see. Dutch, since we are on the subject of showcases, we also got a report that Doom, a new Doom game, might be at the Xbox showcase. Tom Moran mentioned that very teasingly, and then a couple of others came out and talked about hearing similar things. And I'm usually not the biggest fan of all these kind of leaks. There are a couple of people that I trust. Yeah, because
it's
they have
Doom
been...
Year Zero, isn't it?
Should be. According from the leaks we got last year, it was called Doom Year Zero or Zero Year or something. Yeah. It was 2020 when Doom Eternal came out, so that's been 4 years. Since it are actually pretty efficient developers. They kind of remind me a little bit about the Coalition. Also very efficient, very technically advanced, and yeah, the game is definitely probably not going to come out this year, but it looks like it could be there, man. Would that excite you?
Yeah, absolutely. Dooms are awesome, and the soundtracks that come with them are even more awesome. So,
oh yeah.
But I do know, and this is the only thing, they did have a fallout with what's his face. How can I forget his name? That created the Doom soundtrack.
I
don't know his name now. I should know it because I'd listen to it all the time. Unbelievable composer. I'll have a look. I'll tell you in 2 seconds because I've got it in my Spotify playlist.
Yeah. But the soundtrack definitely is awesome. But that's not the only thing that is awesome about Doom. I mean, Doom 2017 and Doom Eternal, both were absolutely awesome. Great paced shooters. There has been this rumor that it is working on a similar reboot to Quake, but it kind of looks like that this is at least not the next big project. And I definitely want to see where they go on so many levels, not just with Doom in terms of, where they gonna move the gameplay, but I also want to see...
Mick Gordon.
There you go. I also want to see where
there was a little bit of a thing. There was a little bit of a thing with Mick Gordon where he was not very impressed with the people at the company with regards to kind of the way that they were doing business, etc. with him. So hopefully he returns because he did an absolutely phenomenal job. Most of the reason there was that hype around Doom Eternal was down to his music. So we definitely need him back. So fingers crossed that he returns for Doom Year Zero, and we'll get that. But on the topic of Quake, Boxy, I'd fucking love a Quake. I've been saying this for years. I'd love to see another Quake.
Absolutely, man. If it gets the same treatment, it would be definitely awesome. But I'd take a Doom as well. And especially since the engine is like an insanely well-advanced engine. I want to see what the next iteration of the engine looks like, how it performs, where 8 will go. So yeah, it would be absolutely awesome if the game is actually at the showcase. And that's what I said like earlier. They're gonna have a killer showcase Xbox this year with a lot of big AAA games there. If a Doom is there, Gear 6 is there, Fable, A Perfect Dark, like that is, they are set up to have one hell of a show, and the good thing is we don't have to wait too long. No,
less than a month.
Also, Jeff Keighley today announced the Summer Showfest lineup. They have 55 developers and publishers there. Basically every big name that you can imagine going to be at the Summer Showcase, and that will air on June 7th. So basically the Friday before the Xbox Showcase. PlayStation is going to be there to some degree. They are in the lineup.
A PC port announcement.
Or another remake coming.
Horizon remake,
God of War remake, and I think that's it. The rest is already remade. Well, anyway, I wonder if PlayStation is actually gonna have, similar to last year, and their own showcase prior to these.
So. You would
definitely think so. Last year they went I want to say 2 weeks earlier. So it's probably a safe bet to assume that they're gonna do that as well. But since the showcase season starts already in almost 3 weeks, why haven't they announced it
next week?
Yeah, maybe they tend to announce these showcases much closer to when they actually air, not like weeks and weeks
usually
in
like
advance.
within a week or a day, or a couple of days.
So definitely want to see what PlayStation has been cooking. I mean, with the
in once more, and Boxy,
hello.
Your show is dead.
My show is dead. It could be.
Oh, it's back on. You've got it.
I got it back. Yeah, I didn't cancel OBS, so I hope I'm back. I'm not sure. Am I back? Really?
I'm watching
on my YouTube channel.
You've raised from the dead.
Oh, I raised from the dead. I'm very sorry. We have a huge thunderstorm going on right now here. I see lightning all the time. And I'll get to that in a second. So, I'm very sorry. And if I drop out again, I'm also very sorry because
I was in the middle of wrapping up just to be on the safe side, but I don't know if you want to continue. That's great. But if you think it's probably safer to
let me briefly shout out UK Desirous, Desi baby, who sent in a super chat. He says, "I've sent you a super chat. Now you have to say the word that pineapple on pizza rocks. Say it like you mean it, boxer shorts." I'm sorry, I can't. I would lose my entire integrity, man, if I just lie to people, because pineapple on pizza is the worst. So, but thank you for the super chat, man. What a day. I don't know if we can continue. We will try, and if I'm gone again, you know why that is. There's it's heavy out there. Dutch, I actually also wanted to move it over to the community questions, but one quick topic, because we haven't talked about it in this show, and by the next time we have a podcast next Thursday, we all will have played Hellblade 2 already. And we actually got a couple of cool new things on that. They've shown off an incredible looking photo mode for Hellblade 2, where you can actually position your own lighting, to... I haven't seen that.
It's the most in-depth photo mode I've ever seen.
Yeah, same. I haven't seen things like that in a photo mode before. So even the photo mode is next level with that game. And then just today, for those that haven't had the chance to play Hellblade 1 again before the Hellblade 2 comes out, they released a great 4 or 5 minute long video, summary of the first game story so far, just to get you up to speed. So where's your hype level, man? Just real quick.
Where's my hype level? Okay, so I mean, I've got a Hellblade Series X. I have Hellblade background on my Xbox. I've got a Hellblade background all over my PC monitors. I have a Hellblade controller. I have 100%ed Hellblade 1. And I own it on all platforms. So you could say my hype level for Hellblade 2 is pretty high.
Very good.
I will be 100%ing this game on Xbox. Absolutely.
Nice.
And I will be owning it as well. It's a game I want to own because I own the first one, so I will be owning this game.
Nice. So I've got it. Pre-installs are available, by the way. You can download it already. I downloaded it on everything I've got on my PC, on my Ellie, and on the console, because I will be jumping back and forth. I want to see how this game just looks on my PC, of course. Details cranked to the max. I will definitely play it on console. Want to see how does a game like that run on this little handheld. So yeah, super excited, and yeah, we will talk about how good the game really is next week.
And I'm going to be recording gameplay. I'm not going to be streaming the first playthrough, but I am going to be recording gameplay footage. But yeah, I'm going to be enjoying that. I'm going to be enjoying that by myself. I'll maybe stream the second playthrough, but I don't know. I might just record it.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely dive into that in depth next week. But Dutch, let us talk about the community questions. Like each and every week, you guys can write in either on Twitter, YouTube, or anywhere else questions. But we put up posts on Twitter and YouTube, of course, to make it just convenient for everyone to write in. So even if you can't make it live to the show, you can still ask questions, suggest topics and stuff that you would like us to discuss. Actually, this week we got a lot. Of course, a lot of those questions was around monthly active users and Square Enix and a couple of things we already covered in the show. So I would try to focus this week on the ones that we didn't already cover, if that's okay for you guys. But anyway, a big thank you for everyone who writes in. So Parasite Green writes in: are we finally going to see Contraband gameplay reveal this summer, or has it been put back in the oven to cook a little longer?
No, I think we'll see it this year.
You would think so, right? I mean,
I've heard a lot of things about it. I've heard a lot of things from people who have seen it.
So what did you hear?
It's in a really good place. I can't say anything about the specifics because it's detailing gameplay and how the gameplay looks and how the gameplay works and everything like that. So I'll let them show that when it gets shown. But as far as I've heard and I'm aware, the game's in a really good place. So it's just a case of them showcasing it. I don't know when they'll have it slated for release, but I'd probably imagine it would be next year at some point, as opposed to this year. But yeah, I think it's actually in a pretty good place from what I'm hearing. So I would hope and I would imagine we would see it this year.
Sweet. Yeah, I mean, listen, they announced it 3 years ago, and when they have shown that the little teaser trailer, they said we have been working on that game for more than 3 years with pardon me, blanking on the developer right now.
Avalanche,
thank you. So that makes, in my book, at least 6 years development time by this year. So yeah, I would assume that it's going to be there. And if not, I'm not sure if the game maybe even has been cancelled. But after hearing what you said, I'm pretty confident that we'll see it this year. Yeah. Another potential hit, honestly. Avalanche are great. Ninja Squirrel writes in, with the money behind Xbox and the success it's overtook Windows as the second biggest income for Microsoft. Why has advertisement and marketing been so poor the past 12 months? Who's to blame? Surely, with all the first AAA party games incoming in the next 6 to 12 months, including Call of Duty, but also separate from Call of Duty, as that is its own entity, how would you both advise Xbox to promote their brand and best product in gaming, Game Pass, in the next 18 months to capitalize mindshare and inform those who are not informed? So first, I don't think that marketing lagged just the last 12 months.
I was going to say, I think 12 months is being generous. 12 months is generous.
Yeah. So I don't know why Xbox puts so little effort into marketing. Maybe that's a Microsoft thing, because if you think about the core products of Microsoft, they never really had to advertise them. Microsoft doesn't need to advertise Windows or Office. They don't. Yeah, nope. It's like outside of the Apple ecosystem. That's basically, they have basically a monopoly. Every company is using Windows. Almost every private user is Windows. You don't have to market that. You also don't have to market your cloud efforts. Because you're not gonna sell
And if you're creating new IPs and you have inherited other things, then obviously we and welcome back, Boxy.
Thank you. Fuck this thunderstorm here. I'm not sure if we should continue or.
I've just asked my chat to ask his questions whilst I was waiting for you to return. If you return, so
yeah. So yeah, maybe we just delay the questions, or should we try one more?
We'll try one more. I think we managed to squeeze out a kind of a half topic in a couple of questions, so we can do one more and then put the outro on.
Yeah, all right, and the rest of the questions we'll get to those next week.
Yeah.
So, but at least hopefully we can now. At least say a proper thank you to everyone, and apologies again for all the connection issues. Kind of sucks. Anyway, Charles Wilson writes in, just my opinion, what do you guys think? Call of Duty Day and Date via Xbox Game Pass just makes a business sense because it will lower the entry barrier and makes the microtransactions much more accessible.
I mean, there's two sides to it. I would understand if they don't, because they were going to make fortunes on games that are sold. But I understand if they do, because again, you get more players. And again, it's mainly microtransactions that do the work for that game anyway. But ultimately, another flip side is that a lot of people don't know Game Pass exists. So so it can't do that much damage to the sales figures, because most people don't even know what the hell Game Pass is. So it can only help Game Pass. It would only bring more people in if they do find out that it's on a service and they don't have to pay for it. But I think they'd make their money up in microtransactions anyway over any potential lost sales. So yeah, I mean, I think it is. After Sarah Bond's comments on a recent interview, it sounds like they still very much have the intent on releasing every first-party game day and date into Game Pass. That doesn't look like it's changed anytime soon. Whether or not we see another price increase to the service or is another thing. I think that'll be on the horizon. I think we'll see an increase in the price.
I do agree. Especially, they will probably bring up the argument of Call of Duty for the price increase, but with all the other like major AAA games that they release now in Game Pass, Hellblade Avowed, Indiana Jones, and so on, they can kind of cover that as well. I mean, they have probably a lot better figures than we do in terms of how many gamers actually play a game via Game Pass versus buying it when it comes day one into Game Pass. And yes, you lose a little money on sales. You probably will increase a little bit your subscriber numbers. But again, if you don't really use, I think if you don't use the power that Call of Duty has to actually market to promote your subscription service, whether it's on PC or console, then it's probably going to be a missed opportunity, because like you said, the potential, nobody knows that Game Pass exists, and so the potential for Game Pass growth is really not depending on whether Call of Duty is in there, but whether you market it or not. And if you don't combine that, putting in Game Pass and putting Call of Duty into Game Pass and then do an actual proper marketing campaign for it, you're not gonna grow in subscribers. And I don't know if a couple of more microtransactions that you would get would recover the loss of sales numbers. But I think that's what Xbox is trying to figure out. Sarah Bond said the other week that they intend to bring all their games, including Activision, into Game Pass. So definitely sounds to me that it is coming. And I also think that's one of the reasons why they might give Call of Duty a dedicated developer direct after the Xbox showcase. To really connect the Call of Duty to Xbox. Call of Duty is an Xbox game now, and so we shall see, man.
Absolutely,
we shall see.
Well, a quick shout out as well. I've got a nice €10 super chat here from Junkmail, who has 2 lightning emojis on either side of this, and he says, "Great show again, guys." With lightning storms.
Thank you. Damn those lightning storms. So, we'll get to the other community questions next week when my internet connection is way more stable. So, Dutch, let's wrap this show up. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who tuned in here today and stuck with us through all the connection issues. We should be way better next week, but still a big thank you to everyone. Hope you enjoyed the shows.
Tasty Hellblade gameplay for you to review.
Absolutely, and we are just probably going to ramble on for a very long time on what we think about the game, and I can't wait. Guys, again, a big thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Dutch, let everyone know what you are working on.
Yes. So I'm still trying to figure out what to do with the channel going forwards. I enjoy streaming from time to time, but ultimately it's too taxing as well when you've got a very busy life to stream consistently. So I want to try and find some kind of content roadmap or something to do for the channel that people will enjoy. So I'm still figuring those things out, but ultimately until that happens, it's just a podcast every week. And potentially the occasional stream. But that's it for me at the moment. And of course, we will be covering the showcases, every one of them. We'll be doing streams for. So we'll be covering all of them, no matter what they are. I'll be covering them live. So you can join us for those. Other than that, you can find me everywhere at Orange and Dutch.
Sweet. Yeah, about the showcases, definitely. We will, as every year, cover them all. Do post shows to discuss everything that was announced. We also gonna do like a big prediction show like every year, with tons of content creators dropping in and out, like we did the last 3-4 years here on this channel. The day before the Xbox showcase, that has always been fun, and we're gonna do that this year as well. But we'll announce all of that more in detail once we're a little closer. But for now, let me say a big thank you again. I see you guys next week when you all hopefully have played Hellblade already. And don't forget to game on.